So when we first came into this galaxy, human template, this galaxy was already inhabited. There were insectoid beings, but the number one race of beings were reptilian beings,
Mhm.
and they're throughout. There were many different dragon races. Dragon races are some of the oldest. The mantis and the dragons are some of the oldest in our galaxy. And at that point, a lot of the dragon races that are now apparitions and spirit realm beings were actually living on physical planets. A lot of them have ascended
Yeah.
from that now, right? I'm
Hmm.
sure there's like still physical dragon experiences out there. But so I did see now, and I never asked myself the question, are you the ancestor of all reptilians? But I did get we are the ancestors of the reptilians and the beings that are visiting our planet and the ones that we have dubbed as evil or doing or have done things that are not for the greater good of humanity.
Hmm.
Those are also descendants of those beings.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Starseed Speak. I am really happy to be here with Neil Guar today, the founder and creator of Portal to Ascension. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you, Rebecca. So good to be here with you.
Yeah, so this is our first chat. I was,
Yep.
I was at a hybrid conference that you hosted, but it was years ago. I think that's my only real, dive into the Portal Ascension universe from that angle. But I'm
Right.
going to read for people are really familiar probably with you, but for those who aren't, I will just share some of your bio so people can get the rundown. I think, and this speaks so well to the force that is Portal to Ascension and you, the man behind it. So. As we said, founder of Portal to Ascension, a conscious event production company created in 2008 that hosts a wide range of presenters on a variety of topics, such as the origins of humanity, the existence of extraterrestrial life, exposing hidden truths, and exploring the nature of reality. Neil travels the world facilitating gatherings that are intended to empower the individual to reclaim their sovereignty and awaken to their full potential. Also hosting, creating, and facilitating 70 conferences, workshops, and retreats a year. Neil, that is huge, by the way. At this point, Portal to Ascension has worked with over 3,000 researchers, spiritualists, scientists, consciousness explorers, and more. Neil is a philosopher, historian, researcher, and spoken word artist. Yeah, and presents his research on the ancient wisdom and future science of sound, vibration, and frequency, as well as in-depth explorations into ancient civilizations, archaeological discoveries, space anomalies, shedding light on hidden esoteric wisdom, and exploring ways in which we can create unity and peace on Earth. I love all that. I'm so honored to have you, Neil. So
Thank you.
there we go. That
I think
really
you
sums
read
it up.
I think you read my bio better than anybody has ever read it before. I felt that one. I felt it.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful. Like I invited you on because I'm so interested in where people begin, like where you were with your spiritual
Yeah.
journey and like how it blossomed and it continues, with Portal to Ascension that has sort of a life of its own and has brought so much goodness into so many lives. But the intersection of again, your personal journey with Portal to Ascension, I think is amazing. Where were you in, we mentioned that the I guess we could say the birth of Portal to Ascension in 2008. Like where were you in your life at that point?
Oh man.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, 2008, I was working as financial advisor to a financial analyst in summer
Cool.
2008, right? And I had worked in the industry, in the investment industry and compliance and things like that, stock market industry, right?
Wow.
And for a couple of years. And then in summer 2008, but I was into this awareness for years before that. And for the last 2 years, I was active on Facebook with my groups on this information. And then the market crashed. There was the recession of 2008, and I lost my job in as an advisor to him because there were some trades he lost some money.
Mm.
And so then I decided, well, okay, what do I want to do now? I don't really want to go back to anything mainstream and continue working for someone. And also the job market wasn't that good at that time as well. So I decided to start teaching myself how to code, and this was like on HTML, right? So
Oh,
this is
wow. Yeah,
I
yeah.
was I was coding like HTML using Dreamweaver, and I was like, okay, let me create some websites, basic websites for people. And so then I created my own Portal to Ascension website as well. Part of my skills when I was learning it, I created a little site. So that was kind of the energy at that moment. I was teeter-tottering in both worlds. But then
Mm.
in as soon as Portal Ascension was born, a year later, that's when I kind of just said, I'm done with the corporate world. It's the first time I said that. I said it many times since. And
Yeah. Oh,
and then and then I jumped in my car and started doing like events around from San Diego to Vancouver up and down the coast.
wow. And did you ever have any sense or vision of like this is going to be really big, or you were just kind of going with the energy of the moment, I would imagine.
Yeah, I always knew it was going to be really big,
Hmm.
actually. And it was kind of like, I don't even know, because for a long time in the beginning phases, I didn't realize how I could connect the dots because things weren't as integrated as they are now. I didn't know how I could show everything that I was into in one place, right? Because I was into UFOs, the linear stuff, and what's been going on with disclosure. I was into channeling, where those two worlds really didn't interact too much. I
Yeah.
w until now, right? I was into metaphysics, I was into quantum physics, I was into sound healing, and I didn't realize how I'm like, I can't, how do I create a website where I show all of this? People get confused.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little did I know, now it's I've done that, and that's exact everybody, most people that are deep into this world are into everything. You know what I'm
Totally,
saying?
because when I look at everything I was reading, you felt that because I was like, oh, ETs and sound healing and this
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that,
yeah.
that and that. Of course, ancient sites and all the hidden history and these things, like it lights people up because you have connected it so beautifully. And were
Right.
you, I feel like I don't intuitively, I just feel like you've been a spiritual seeker your whole life. I mean, would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I would say that as a child, I knew there was something a little off, right? That things didn't seem that right. And then there was traumas during childhood that created dissociation in me. I was became a
Okay.
dissociated child, dissociated teenager, but in my 20s it hit the most, 20s and even early in 30s. Whereas the childhood trauma would come back. And
Okay.
so what really happened was um, a journey, a constant journey to figure out how to heal,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know,
yes,
led
I could say very relatable, Neil. Very
yeah,
relatable. Yes.
led me into this world. And I feel like my belief is that you might have something happen in this life, but chances are it could be connected to a trauma in the past life. And the way the recipe of the universe works is it creates scenarios in order to perpetuate traumas that you're bringing in with you, you
Yeah.
know, based on
Yeah.
your energy field, based on what you're attracting. So there's deeper layers of it, but I would say a lot of what I've created, and I didn't know this for the first 8 years, I wasn't aware I was doing it unconsciously. In 2016 is when I realized why I was doing all the work I was doing. And it was looking for deep underlying healing of trauma. And not just my own, but now also collective galactic trauma. That's definitely a part of Portal to Ascension.
Yes, it is. And in recent times, one thing that struck me, I think I was reading a newsletter you'd sent out maybe in the last couple of years, and you'd spoken to, some I love that you had gotten vulnerable and shared about your journey through some things that made you go into deeper inner healing work. Because for me, the work of trauma recovery and emotional healing and shadow work isn't separate from awakening and ascension.
Yeah.
It's very that gritty work of being human is part of the process of how we remember who we are.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
that, yeah, and I like how Portal to Ascension and the work you're doing personally and all of this publicly is really knitting the two together into such a beautiful tapestry. And I find
Thank
that
you.
very, very compelling, because spirituality can be used to bypass a lot of our stuff, like to
Yeah.
maybe kind of not quite deal with it. Like my journey through, recovery from SSP and the programs that I was in really, like you said, like, wow, I have all these catalysts now. Like without that, I wouldn't have become the person I am now. I wouldn't be sitting here interviewing you, for example. I wouldn't be on YouTube or all these things. So there's a hidden silver lining. And I read this also, Neil, in your origin story for Portal to Ascension. I'm just going to read just a soundbite of this. I thought it was really pertinent and also poignant. You talked about from 2001 to 2008 going down a rabbit hole that eventually took you into, and this is in your words, to a scary place of conspiracies, bloodlines, fear, control, and corruption within the matrix. I was unhappy and disheartened until 2008, where through a series of events, I had a spiritual awakening and began to realize that the darkness is working for the light. We signed up
Yeah.
for the experience, and the entire world could be a stage with self-imposed experiences of light and dark. And I feel like maybe that's what we're speaking to in the moment of like that integration, or how we come here to explore these themes and actually, would you say that the dissociation you experienced in childhood has actually brought you into a greater resolving that or healing that has brought you into so much goodness within yourself?
Yeah, and yes, definitely. And goodness with myself, the ability to hold space for others and with what the events that I create. And then it's also an ongoing journey. There's deeper layers. And what's happening right now is there's a whole restructuring. A lot of what I thought I knew in the last 2 years, have completely been turned upside down. And what I think I am and what I'm supposed to be bringing to this world, and no matter what, I know it's the work I'm doing is for the greater awareness and consciousness, but in the direction I'm bringing in, what kind of content I'm bringing in,
Yeah,
how I relate to it, you know, and all of that is shifting a lot. Two
really.
years,
Yeah, yeah,
2 years of turmoil, kind of craziness going on, and
yeah.
this year there's just like inspiration, there's new projects, new ideas, there's pauses and breaks in event creation to really just like sit and rather than just do and do all the time,
Yeah. Mhm.
and realizing that and taking good care of myself and also creating events in which we're really offering transformational experiences for people to transcend, inner traumas. And I would say, like, for as cliche as it sounds, the deepest layers of shadow work, the shadow work that we just throw around that term, but the shadow work not only on the individual level, but how that shadow work is reflected in the external,
Yeah.
and how the shadow that we judge externally,
Yes.
parts of it, us, is it that we're reflecting, right?
Yes.
So yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's going right into the Jungian, the true Jungian, I would say definition of the shadow, which is all the things we judge in others that are actually part of self. So
Mhm.
it's this beautiful, just seeing an infinity loop where, we're all part and parcel of this co-creative experience, I feel. So as a kid, you mentioned dissociation, and I'm wondering, did you ever, do you have a sense that you were relating with other beings at any point, or had any unique experience, like spiritual um, ex experience, I guess,
Yeah.
during
Well,
childhood?
there were definitely traumas that were related that happened in this life with, as being a child, as family. And what it did for me, which I thought was unfortunate for a while when coming to terms with it not being categorized like that, is it really inhibited me from remembering most of my life.
Yes.
So I don't really have any memories most of my life. And definitely before 21,
Wow.
I
Mm.
hardly remember anything, you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
so there were definitely some things connected there. That's a severe dissociation. It's like that kind of mentality is a chronic dissociative state.
Yeah.
And so there's probably things that happen. I don't know how I still operate as human without really remembering a lot. I don't know how I have
Yeah.
moments,
Yeah. Yeah.
but so what has happened though is I've gone on journeys of modalities to remember my life, and I've started doing a lot of QHHT sessions, receiving them. I've had three in the last year, like each being over 5 hours long, where I've regained deeper memories of my ET lives.
Mhm.
And when I start meditating, like now I'm doing a meditation routine, when I get to a place of stillness, I start remembering things,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, Bang on. Yeah, excuse me. That was very poignant because people say, well, how did you get back your all the memories of the space program stuff and being a super soldier?
Yeah,
It was meditation. It wasn't any big hocus pocus thing. I sat down and became still with my mind starting back in 2012. So 13 years
yeah,
ago, the gates started to open. It was coupled with a head injury for me. But in any case, like you said very well, when we become quiet and begin to listen, everything opens up for us.
yeah, yeah.
So beautifully said. And um, wow, I'm curious. I think at this point with the regressions, you probably have a deep understanding now of connecting the dots through past and parallel lifetimes, ET lifetimes. Is there anything in particular that you feel now, looking in hindsight, maybe has informed the journey with Portal to Ascension more than
Oh yeah,
yeah, yeah. Do you want to speak at all to that?
yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so
Yeah.
um, in the last, like, where do you begin? So I was just saying, my last regression, I went to Orion, right? And the Orion, what happened in Orion, and specifically Al Nilim, which is the second star in Orion where I was from, one of my soul fragments is from. There was a lot of activity that occurred there that directly reflected Earth's evolution over the last 100 million years, and then also reflects into specific types of themes that I brought with me when I left Orion and I completely integrated with my human self on Earth, right? And so it's a long story, so I'm trying to summarize it in a way because we'd be here forever,
Yeah, right. We're
you
talking
know?
about the Orion
Yeah,
Wars and all going back millennia.
I
Yeah.
know. So like, okay, three regressions, or a Cliff Notes version kind of. First regression, Geraldine Orozco does it for me. I go through this in-between place wearing an Iron Man suit. I saw myself in many places, but on one planet, I was on this desolate planet in this one city that was like an Atlantean city in the middle. And I was in working for the jump rooms where we're using stargates to jump to Earth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so there's the long story on that, but I won't get into it. And the second regression, all of a sudden I go into the inner world. I see the dragons. I have a deep connection with dragons that stem
Yes.
for the last few years. The red dragon tribe I connected with. I saw them. I saw how they bring in babies through the womb, through the portal. The dragon spirits assist all this stuff.
Mhm.
And then at the end of that, I asked, why am I seeing this? And then the dragons took me to the central star of Orion, Al Nilim, and said the reptilians from this area, they're our descendants, we're their ancestors, and we want you to realize that they're your family as well.
Mm.
So- and part of Portal to Ascension's mission is to help get over galactic racism, galactic speciesism, and to show ourselves in the other and realize like hurt people, and even the beings that are the descendants of the dragons, the reptilians that supposedly were evil, which only 5% of them are nefarious. Those are the ones that are interacting with us. Um,
Yeah.
Even that, how what actually occurred to them, again, another long story, but humanity actually had an effect on the original disturbance between the reptilians and the humans as well. It was who cast the first stone, you can't really tell,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So
Right.
it's like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
know, like, I feel like you have something to share, so I'll pause for a
I'm
second.
just listening. If you see me closing my eyes, it's because I'm attuning at a more psychic level to
Yep.
the story
Yep.
that you're telling. So I'm paying attention.
Right.
Nothing really to share. I was just like, wow, this is, the potent regressions that you can go
Yeah,
into
yeah,
and
yeah.
learn
Oh my
these
God, that's
things.
so deep. And then
Yeah.
so then after that, the second one was a Bridget Renee Holiday. So after we went to Orion, after we're done, she's like, "Do you want to do this again?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, like, "Shall we do just for Orion?" And I said, "Yes." So the third one, I'd already created a presentation called Orion, Reptilians, Stargates, and Galactic Wars. I created a presentation about a regression I hadn't even had yet. Okay. So I created the presentation, I put it out there up for sale for people on the website, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna hope the regression takes me there. And
Wow,
then
it did. Yeah.
the third one, went to Orion and I saw so many layers of like what was going on there, how time works, how the beings stole this technology that was born out of the nebula that can terraform planets, how that was brought to Earth 100 million years ago, how the reptilians interacted with the dinosaurs and how they manipulated dinosaur DNA 100 million years ago as well, all the way up until and jumping forward. even why Orion people that live in Orion, they're not tripping like we are on Earth about the Orion Wars. But the Orion Wars is a common theme here among a lot of people that have been traumatized from it. So
Yeah.
why aren't the beings in Orion concerned about it, but we are on Earth when they're the ones living there? Well, the thing is that millennia and millennia have passed since these wars in Orion, and Orion is at peace. However, a lot of us on Earth now literally just came from there yesterday because that's how time works.
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah,
we
yeah.
brought like it was like our last life, you know?
So, I had like this rapid fire series of queries going on in my mind as you're speaking to all this. So, in such a, this is dense and rich here. So one of my questions was going to be, Neil, do you understand if this is, to your knowledge, like going on now, or is this in what we call the past? And I think you just
Yeah.
kind of spoke to that. It's like we remember it as if it were yesterday.
Yeah.
Am I correct in how?
Exactly, yeah. And I put I'm doing this is probably gonna be broadcast after my conference, but starting tomorrow, I'm doing a 2-day conference on Orion. It's called the Orion Constellation Conference. It's 14
Mhm.
speakers, and I'm gonna be going over this presentation. But there's a whole 15-minute part of my presentation of how time works. So I got all these downloads on how basically jumping between realities and time works. And an example is when the reptilian beings took this created God technology, they overpowered the Stargate that I was the keeper. I was the Stargate keeper. And they overpowered it, went through the Stargate. And then with the technology, they stopped in between dimensions. And they weren't in one reality or another. They were in the in-between worlds.
Mm,
And as they were doing that, they were able to see Earth and they were able to see all Earths, all realities over 100 million years happening at the same moment.
oh my
And
God.
so they
Yeah.
went back 100 million years, and they knew that Earth's consciousness wouldn't be at the level until around 99 million years later for them to incarnate without forgetting their past,
Mm,
without having amnesia. So what they did was they played the long game. They manipulated DNA etherically because they were in the etheric realm, which is even actually um, a mistranslation, I guess, because technically this is not etheric DNA. It's DNA that exists on the light spectrum that's not visible to the human eye.
oh,
So,
okay. Yeah, 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 yeah,
so
yeah.
like we have a long, so they could manipulate it, and over 100 million years, they completely continue to shift DNA slowly in the direction for sentient life that they can incarnate into. And all the time that was happening, other beings are visiting Earth. Lyrians came here, Syrians came here, Palladians came here, and and none of them because knew that these reptilian beings were observing them the whole time because they were phased into another reality, a dimension between a dimension, right? None of
Yeah.
them knew that. Whereas, but the reptilians could see it, and when they would come to Earth, they would manipulate the DNA. I saw like them doing genetic experiments, and when they would manipulate the DNA, they'd be like, "This doesn't make any sense. How is this DNA manipulated? No one's been here." Because
Mm. Oh,
they found the evidence of it, right? But they never found the actual interaction on Earth because it was all happening in this in-between state. Yeah.
okay, okay. And this is far out. Like my mind is kind of like racing alongside you, like trying to keep up with this. So
I'm
just
gonna
a
show
couple
more.
clarifiers here, Neil. Could I ask you that when we speak to reptilians in Orion, of course, you know that what my question might be, is this the Draco as we know them or
Yeah.
some other race?
Yeah, so the parts that I didn't get through that could be because other people have asked me the same question,
Okay.
is that they said that the Dracos migrated to Orion,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So it could have been original Dracos.
Hmm.
But then I've also heard the story that the actual beings that did this whole thing were non-physical beings.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
and that the reptilian bodies were hijacked bodies. They weren't actually
Hmm.
like those
Yep.
beings. So
Hmm.
that part I haven't gone into yet.
Yeah, there's so much here. And did you also mention the reptilians? You said something quickly there. Moderating dinosaur DNA. Am I
Yeah,
remembering this right?
the raptors were the ones that I saw them actually influencing.
Hmm. Hmm. What was their objective?
So basically, they were able to the level of consciousness on Earth was not in a direction that supported a being incarnating without going through the amnesiac
Amnesia.
like
Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
so
Hmm.
by doing certain genetic experiments and hybridizations, they were able to kickstart an evolutionary chain that would happen on Earth that would eventually lead to that being possible. So now humanity came along later, and we had great civilizations on Earth. We had ETs interact with Earth. We had that advancement going on, right? But not until around 50,000 years ago did these beings incarnate on Earth. That was when that
Hmm.
was when they were able to basically incarnate without forgetting. And then there's a whole segment on in my presentation on what they did and what bloodlines they went into
Hmm. Hmm.
when
Hmm.
they came on Earth, you
Wow.
know? Yeah.
So, and we'll link these. I hope we can get the links for these specific,
Yeah.
the recordings people can get into on PTA, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we can link that below for folks who are like, whoa, 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 I need to know more about this. Yeah, so and to clarify, it's not, a lot of times we go, oh, Orion, and our minds dualized and polarized as we are in this
Yeah.
realm, go, oh, bad, go bad, that's
Yeah.
all bad. But there are benevolent races in Orion, of which I think you were also,
Many.
yeah, many, many.
Well,
There's more than
even
one.
the ones that were
Yeah.
in Orion were invaded where they had planets in Orion. This was a peaceful planet that
Yes.
was invaded by somebody else.
Yes, exactly. And it kind of goes back to what you said. Well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's hard to parse this out, at least from our third density perspective, which is always going to be a little limited, as is our linear language.
Yes.
Um, so wow, thank you. There's so much that you just said, and lots to, I mean, I think it illustrates so beautifully like how complex this is and how without a broader frame of reference, like we can kind of get lost
Yeah.
in sort of black and white thinking about these things, or something you said about like being in flux with what you're bringing, like almost like we have to be open-minded to keep evolving our perspective as we gather more information, or as you have with the regressions and all that you've gained about your own, let's say, Neil's hidden history. So you mentioned too, I was being out of the SSP environment here, I went, oh, jump room, what? Can I ask you just about
Yeah.
what you shared about being, did you say a portal keeper? Is that right?
Yeah, 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 exactly. So basically, I had lived at 101, I'd had 101 lives on that planet rotating around that sun, okay,
Mm,
in the central sun. And all these lives spanned over tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of years. Okay.
wow.
And it wasn't like I was only coming back there. I had lives on Earth simultaneously, I had lives everywhere simultaneously. But at 101 this place. And every life I was a portal keeper because they're basically the largest stargate in the galaxy exists in Orion. And that stargate is the stargate that goes to a whole bunch of other worlds. It's actually almost exactly like the movie Thor and the Rainbow Light Bridge and that guy that's holding the trident as the protector and the gatekeeper of the Rainbow Light Bridge in Thor, and that when they go from Asgard and they go into other dimensions to Earth, they go through that portal. That's exactly what it is. I think they got it from there. Like Orion is like the Asgard, and then that portal would be to other realities. So another side point, when I was the other fourth time was I was doing ayahuasca 2 years ago. And as I was on my journey, I then ended up on that freaking planet again and I'm on the planet, and this time I'm automatic writing. I've never
Yeah.
automatically written with plant medicine. I never write, but this time it just wanted me to write. So I'm writing, and I'm writing this whole download of Orion, and then in the end I said, "What's the name of the portal, the Stargate?" And it's called Portal to Descension. So. So that goes
Okay.
full circle to what you asked in the beginning. How did this inform my Portal to Ascension is an Orion technology. It's an answer to the descension process. However, there's two things here. One is the realization that the descension is no better or worse than the ascension because for example, I was um, one of the gatekeepers for both. I'm a gatekeeper for Portal to Ascension. I'm a gatekeeper for Portal to Descension. So there's like
Mm,
no real judgment within that. And so the portal jump rooms basically over these hundred plus years that I was there, I saw myself in different scenarios: desolate Earth, lush green oasis. The Stargate went through all types of things,
mhm,
and then And then there was the hijacking and these beings, and there's I have a whole image on this that I made on AI that looks like it. It's crazy. And then they hijack and they overpower, they steal the technology and they overpower through a great war all the Stargate keepers, me and all my crew. And they go through the Stargate. They steal the technology that was making the planet live. The planet starts to die.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
we then, but the thing is, the technology on how to create the Stargates were never lost. It wasn't like the lost civilization. My first life in the 101 lives, I was a different being from another planet building the Stargate on that planet. And then I incarnated on that planet to be a Stargate keeper, right? So
Wow.
so let me get to the end of this here because it's getting long.
Fair enough. That's fair.
So
That's fair.
the Stargate jump rooms. So in order to save the planet from dying, a new technology needed to be created. We had the scientific awareness to basically recreate and duplicate that technology, but we didn't have the blueprints because it was stolen. So the portal jump rooms were created, which was like a big building that had jump rooms in there, paying reverence to all the ancient past Stargate keepers. But it was an actual Stargate jump room where we would go to come to Earth using our Stargate, using our Iron Man like outfit. And we would come to Earth for the reason being is we were trying to extract data from the simulation of Earth to reverse engineer the coding on how the simulation was created, right? And by reverse engineering the code of how this matrix was created, we were able to recreate the technology in Orion and help the planet out.
Wow. Wow. This is really, yeah, this is rich, rich, rich.
Yeah,
So there's
indeed.
so much. You must get up from a regression after being in there for 5 Earth hours and just be like, I don't
Yeah.
even know where I am. I just went through 1,000 lifetimes.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was intense.
Right? Like, so do you have do you have like a almost somatic or visceral sensation of any of these incarnations of body? Like that what your physical form felt like or what race you were? Were you reptilian at all at some point or
Yeah.
um
So I was humanoid in these lives. I saw myself as humanoid, but when I
okay.
had the dragon regression, that's when I saw myself as three different reptilians, and I have images that I created of those as well.
Mhm.
One's a reptilian with a duck face, one's a reptilian with a fish face, and then one is your standard reptilian, like that you see, if you look for reptilian ETs like
Yeah.
that. So I
Okay.
did see it, and when I came to Earth with through this experience in Orion. I started getting a disease, a sickness that would happen from some people that would go to the Stargate, where you'd become schizophrenic, basically. And because what happens is when you go through the Stargate, you visit only yourself in Earth. You can only visit yourself in different lives, and
Mm.
you would take on the emotional state of yourself, and you would take on the memories of the self you're visiting, and it would create for some people disturbances in their identity. So what I did is in order to when that happened to me, I went through the Stargate and I disintegrated my energy and I read my fractalized version of my soul in Orion joined the fractal of myself on Earth.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay. Yeah.
then I
Cool.
basically brought in that's when I brought in all my trauma and all my dharma from Orion, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 So, and do you feel like that's part of what I read that you grew up in a Hindu family in England, moved to Cali. I mean, had some trauma, a lot of dissociation, lost memories. Is this part of the remembering of Orion or the integration of that, or how do you relate with that? Are these two connected?
Yeah, so I would say that the darkest shadow aspect of what has happened on Earth with control mechanisms, with authority, with royalty, monarchies, um, mass control of humanity from very long ago has to do with how this matrix was manipulated after the hijacking. And when that occurred, it created a real dip in our consciousness and experience on Earth. Now, ultimately, everything happened the way it should have because it actually created such a huge dip that it's now giving us the ability to have the greatest of heights, right?
Mm.
And one thing that came to me was that Earth was like a Ferris wheel until they were hijacked. Then it became a roller coaster. Okay.
Mm.
So, but the roller coaster was meant to be. And now that the roller coaster has happened, what is going on with my mission here is I'm really much focusing on how do we make peace with dark? How do we see, like, I was in Vipassana recently, the silent meditation retreat, and I had this whole download because I'm doing a course this year called the Shadow Workers course, and it's going to be a 4 month course. And I had this whole download, like, for example, people say when there's um, when you flip on light in a dark room, the light is so strong that the shadow runs away, that the darkness runs away, right? But that's not how I see it. I see it as when you flip on the light switch, darkness is this apparition of a little child in the corner fearing from the light. And it's so scared of the light because it doesn't recognize itself in the light. It's been so fragmented from it, it doesn't realize itself in that. And so there's this sacred dance, but the darkness is actually a wounded part of creation.
Yeah.
And it's and if we look at it as this thing that's evil and the other and bad and hold ourselves as so self-righteous because we're better than that, right? Then we don't see ourselves in the sacred dance of polarity. And the sacred dance of polarity was a divinely orchestrated moment. It wasn't ever like one thing I'll also say is when the singularity became duality, when the oneness became darkness and light, did the oneness love the light part of itself more than it loved the darkness of itself, or did it love both parts of itself equally?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
beautiful analogy. Yes, 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 yes. There's so much we have to learn and discover about that. So we don't have to like cut off a part of ourselves. But
yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's well said. Very well said. And um, wow. And it speaks to our, I think, the tenderness of the human experience. And like we're talking about, like when I read some of your messages over the past year or a couple of years, like the piece about vulnerability and being vulnerable within ourselves in relationship to self, relationship to others is simple words, but like it helps us model something new for the human experience and
yeah,
to really take that at like boots on the ground human nitty-gritty level of relating and becoming, as I would say, after being weaponized as a super soldier, becoming superhuman. And
yeah.
it's really heart-based. I mean, in my book, that's what all of this journey for me of healing has brought me back into a deeper compassionate space of heart and union within the self. So much here. So I want to dive a little into dragon world with
Yeah.
you. Dragons have been, so my preamble on that is, I haven't done a lot of research on this, but what comes to me psychically and experientially through meditation and a float tank and all these things, the dragons have been with me for years and probably for forever. And, no surprise to you or the audience. And I have a, very protective field of particular white dragon that I also experience as an aspect of self. But the end of last year, beginning of this year, we're in Feb, we're on March at this point of 2025. The dragon energy around me every day is like off the charts. It's insane. I'm like a lot of attunements with that also go out into the world for other people. I have a son from Mars in the programs I recently also met who's part reptilian from the native race on Mars. And bear with me here, this has a point and it's relevant to our talk here. But he has needed that dragon energy he was co-opted by the Draco at some point, um, and has needed me as his mother. Basically, he used my eggs and so on to create him to come back into his full breadth and depth of being who he is. So I heard you say something about, or maybe I'll ask it as a question. Have you ever seen that various reptilian races trace back to some kind of common ancestor or dragon energy?
Yeah, yeah.
Speak to that?
I definitely do it. And so when we first came into this galaxy, human template, this galaxy was already inhabited. There were insectoid beings, but the number one race of beings were reptilian beings,
Mhm.
and they were throughout. There were many different dragon races. Dragon races are some of the oldest. The mantis and the dragons are some of the oldest in our galaxy. And at that point, a lot of the dragon races that are now apparitions and spirit realm beings were actually living on physical planets. A lot of them have ascended
Yeah.
from that now, right? I'm
Hmm.
sure there's like still physical dragon experiences out there. But so I did see now, and I never asked myself the question, are you the ancestor of all reptilians? But I did get we are the ancestors of the reptilians and the beings that are visiting our planet and the ones that we have dubbed as evil or doing or have done things that are not for the greater good of humanity,
Hmm.
those are also descendants of those beings,
Hmm.
right? And there's another story on what happened with them, right? Because the biggest commodity in the universe is genetics and DNA, and a lot of disturbances in the matrix, if you will, has happened because of violations of DNA usage
Yeah.
by different beings, right? So yeah, I did see that they had that connection. And so then the dragon beings that I connected with in the beginning, they showed me that. In the middle, they showed me the planets that these beings are from. They even showed myself as a reptilian, as I said, 3 different times to show that I have that DNA and I'm connected to them as well. Plus, there is a good percentage of reptilian DNA specifically from these races, even including the ones that we don't per se love and enjoy on Earth, that are within our own bodies.
Hmm.
Some of us are even the souls of those beings living as humans. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
The
So
shocking information like that maybe we don't all really want to hear about, but yeah, there's so much there. Talk about shadow work. Yeah.
it's really like, like no truer words have been said than the whole world is a stage, right? And so what I like to say is we're actors on a stage that forgot we're acting. Okay. And what's happening now is we forgot we're the right script writers, the directors, all of them, we everything.
Yeah.
And what's happening is we're realizing that, and as we realize that we are the script writers, that's when we can rewrite the script. And now to put that in quantum physics terms, and that's when we can start rewriting the code of the simulation. When we realize we're the ones that coded the simulation, that's when we can change it. And when we do that, we can do it with our own consciousness. We don't even need a computer screen. And as we do that collectively, that's when we start seeing magical things that we consider magic now occurring.
Yes. 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 The co-creation is happening. So, wow. I love, gosh, so many places to go here. The dragon energies I perceive as really, or have learned through my psychic experiences, tell me if this feels right to you. They really seem to preside over huge cycles of birth, death,
Yeah.
transformation, creation, destruction, and all of that. Does that ring true for you?
Yes, so true. So first of all, it's interesting that the whole time you said you had that deep connection to dragons was the whole year of the year of the dragon,
Okay,
right?
I didn't know
It
that.
just
So
ended in
yeah,
February. It just
yeah.
ended in February. We
Mhm.
we did the year of the snake event to celebrate the end of the year of the dragon, the beginning of the year of the snake.
Okay,
And
yeah.
so it's been 2 years I've had this deep connection with dragons that I didn't think were going to come. I didn't realize I was going to go there in this regression. I wasn't trying to go to reptilian lives at all. It just happened.
Yeah.
So I've done 2 dragon conferences ever since, and I've even started doing a type of language called dragon language. It's not light language, it's actually dragon language. So, because
Mm.
light language, light language is the light frequency of a specific language. This is just how they sounded, right?
Mhm.
And I do hip hop, so I've incorporated that in there. And now, when
Mm.
it comes to your question about, or your statement about I guess your comment about the birthing process, right? And so when had this regression, I started doing research on like all the ancient civilizations and what they believed the dragon symbolism was. And fertility, agriculture, birth, rain is almost unanimous through all of these ancient civilizations. So what I saw was I was literally like I saw a red paper dragon and a little baby's hands like going like this with it. And and then I see the baby and it's like a 3-year-old white baby and it was me in a different
Mm.
light.
Mm.
And then I start seeing a dragon spirit, red dragon going around me everywhere, a real like apparition. And as I started asking more questions, I eventually go and I'm taken to inner Earth. It goes up to the North Pole, shows me this red vortex-like entrance into inner Earth. I go in there, and inside Earth, there's this translucent blue pool, like something out of a fantasy movie, with all these dragon spirits around the pool. And these souls are coming out of the pool, souls of babies.
Mm.
And they were, and then the dragon would wrap around one of the babies, and they would go into a womb somewhere on Earth and put the baby in. Like, and basically, the dragons was an energy that could go through a wormhole because they weren't physical. They were able to go through wormholes, and the womb is a wormhole. The womb is a wormhole where souls come from. Because like say you have 10 kids, does that mean you're gonna have 10 kids and you haven't had them yet? Does that mean you have 11 souls in in your body right now, or do the souls come from somewhere when they come into your womb, right? Where does it
Mm-hmm.
come from? Well, it comes from a wormhole because the wormholes are portals to the heavens, the different dimensions. Nothing comes from outside space. Nothing comes from outside space. Everything comes from inside the singularity. Even spacecraft that come into outer space came through some sort of singularity, which is a wormhole to come here. So they have this whole entire process in Earth where the Earth literally has this pool inside of it that births souls. The Earth is giving birth. That inside the Earth there is a singularity, and the singularity is making way for souls to come out of it to be incarnated. And the dragons were assisting with this whole process. And I mean, there's more to it, but I'll stop
There
there.
is so much to this. So, one question, excuse me. Are the souls new souls or old souls, Neil?
All types of souls, actually.
Okay.
Okay, this is a good question because so the way I like to do it, because if you know anything about my presentations, I incorporate a lot of science and like just logical, analytical thinking to these metaphysical concepts. So when I saw it all, I was like, I thought every soul, every human has a dragon pet, if you will, a dragon friend. And the dragon stays with you for the first 3 years, and then it coils up in your heart, giving you the opportunity to wake it up anytime in life. And it's your counterpart. And so I thought it was for every being because I saw it for myself. A few days later, after this progression, somebody calls me up and says, "Hey, I heard you're doing a conference on the dragons." Because literally the next day I created the conference.
Yeah.
And then someone goes to me, yeah, I'll go, yeah. She goes, "Oh my God, I have such a connection. I have a connection with the Red Dragon tribe. They are inside the earth. Souls come out, babies come out, and they help with the birthing process. And they're here for the first 3 years of your life." And I'm like, what? That's
What?
exactly what I thought, right? And
Wow.
and then she says these dragons only come for specific star seeds.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I saw
Mhm.
that in my life, my reality, because I didn't see that picture. She had that part of that information for me. So from her information, I'm realizing that I don't think it's everybody, it's specific souls, yeah. So
Wow.
whether they're old souls, whether they come from specific lineages, I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. So much here. So with the, as I was learning, thank you for all that. I'm just loving this conversation. It's so relevant to a lot of my own experience. And when I was on Mars, in the programs and then dissecting, memory fields that were coming back, I understood that there was the indigenous group of reptilians there who picked me up after I crashed on patrol and so on. Anyway, they picked me up, took me back, kind of saved me in a way. But they seem to live underground, connected to the spiritual consciousness of Mars itself, which allowed them to create food, water, survival, and so on, very much linked to dragon consciousness. Does this make sense that the planetary consciousness of let's take the planets in our solar system is deeply wed with dragon fields or dragon energies? Is that a thing that you have come across, or does that make sense in
And
you?
are these beings that are reptilian from connected to Mars underground? What is their intention or agenda?
They're just minding their own business, doing their thing. Very highly
Okay.
spiritual, but not technologically advanced, not doing anything with DNA. Have
So
no.
it could be because I what I saw was that there is a whole inner kingdom of dragon souls.
Hmm. Hmm.
Also, so all I saw was what they were doing in this one cave. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what else was down there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much, as we speak and move through this conversation, I'm realizing too, it's like, oh, we feel like we know so much, but it's like,
Right.
oh my God, there's so much, how could you ever know all that is? And yet it's contained within us in our cellular memory. We know things. So it's massive. And I feel like when you were a child, were you a deep researcher? I feel like you were reading a lot. Is that a thing?
No, when I was a kid, not so much. Um, but when I turned 17, 18, and I got into the information that this is all about, that's when I started taking in everything I could take in, right? It
Yeah.
was like nothing really interested me. I was more philosophical as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I would have philosophical thoughts a lot. I would share it with my friends, and even when I was in high school, I was rapping, freestyle rapping, and writing poetry throughout high school and in college. And I wasn't in high school. I didn't have any I didn't know any of these speakers. I didn't know that this was a whole community of people. But I was
Yeah.
writing poems that had these words in it, you know? So on some level, it was coming out of me. And yeah, so
Okay.
Got
What would you say to people who seek a deeper connection to the dragon fields, to the dragon energies, to the, all of that? Because it's incredibly compelling. I mean, I was a little, to me at the beginning, I've been a little like, whoa, kind of blown away by the different varieties of dragon energy and their the potency and also the love and tenderness that can also come with that. But yeah, let you answer that.
So I would say that the last year, what I really got was the dragons are coming back, and it's the return of the dragon. But the thing is that they never really left. The dragon spirit and soul are beings that have never needed an acknowledgement. Literally, like they assist with our birthing process. They assist with the basically if there was some sort of like code within the reality of how souls can come into this reality, right? Um, if they assist with one ways, and there's many ways for souls to incarnate into this in experience, many ways, but they are definitely the stewards of a specific type of way. And this one race, there's many races. They all have different intentions and agendas. I just saw the Red Dragon race, right?
Yes.
So what the message that they were really bringing is that they were in the back burner for so long, now they're coming to the forefront. They didn't need acknowledgement for their assistance on Earth, and they still don't, but they're coming forward because there's important times ahead of us that have to do with serpentine energy. And their serpentine energy, they're the blueprint of it. They're the ancestors of it, one, right? So they're here to help us with this reconciliation. And they're also here to help us burn down the old paradigm with the fire.
Oh, is
Um,
that why I've been receiving this massive fire dragon energy? That
oh
could be
yeah,
why.
yeah, I mean, plus they're all about the underworld. So they're helping us bring things to the surface. That's the underworld. They're really great at helping you with the shadow work.
Hmm.
So because they
Yeah.
have that lineage connected to the shadow. And so what happens is that the serpentine energy brings things out from the underworld, and then it basically says deal with it, and then the fire burns through it, right? And that was what the energy was. Dragons came, they're here to stay. Now we're in the snake energy. The snake energy is a second year of reptilian energy. And now the shadow work continues. But the snake, what does it do? It effortlessly sheds its skin. And then it realizes under its skin, it was beautiful all along. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying?
mm, mm,
And the dragon energy last year was masculine energy, freaking yin energy. Like, let's get this going.
mhm.
Here we're in the yang energy of the snake, the feminine serpent, right? So it's like this whole balance. What's happened is we had the fire and we had the calmness, the dragon and the snake. We had we had the abrupt way, things coming to the surface, whether you like it or not, and now we're having the graceful way. We had the masculine way and we had the feminine way. We had the all
Mm,
three of the most major dualities of this paradigm all represented with the energies of the archetypes for these last two, this year and last year, right?
mm.
It was truly a balancing metaphorically of those hemispheres, and then also physically of the masculine and feminine within us in our brains as well. The hemispheres.
Mm, mm. Oh gosh. And it's so relevant to the ascension journey of humanity in a collective way. And I also hear you saying they're very much, and I'm feeling this very much to myself, like they're here to connect with the portal, so to say, is very open for anybody in meditation or seeking to connect more fully with
Yeah,
dragon energies. It's really on right now.
it's
Like
really the amount of
take advantage.
people that have been attracted to dragon energy is really incredible. For example, this regression I had was 2 months before the year of the dragon began. I didn't know, just like you, that the year of the dragon was beginning because I never followed the Chinese zodiac.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I'm meeting all these people talking about dragons. Like I can share a list of stories and synchronicities
Wow.
that random dragon stuff and calls about it, and everybody having this connection. And many of those people also did not know we're in the year of the dragon, which is another validation that
Yeah.
the energy is real, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm pretty much sure that if we even put it out there and ask people, which I did an event, a closing event. We had a few hundred people on, and I said to everybody, who 2 years ago, who in this room never even thought they would be talking about dragons right now?
Right. Like,
And
yeah.
all like so many people responded, right? Including me.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Thank you so much. This is like, oh, sizzling with a lot of energy emanating to our audience around this because I'm sure we certainly have the dragons with us. I can feel my son with me as well. Um, Beautiful. So I have a question too, going back into Orion. It's a little bit linear 3D, but could you say anything to what, from a, again, linear 3D perspective, what might be going on in Orion now? Is that something you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I did see Orion now, and it's a peaceful planet. It's a peaceful, okay, this is how it looks. So first of all, the technology for the planet was recreated. I don't know how long it took, but it was recreated. The planet is thriving, is abundant, lush green oasis. But what happened is Orion is in peace, there's no war there. But there's a lot of, don't forget, there's a lot of planets. In Orion's belt isn't three planets, it isn't three stars. It's like seven or nine suns. Each of those little stars are like binary or trinary stars. You just can only
Yeah,
see
yeah, there's so
maybe
much there. Yeah.
there's
So when you
not
say
just
just
the belt. That's the
okay.
belt. I'm not even talking about the rest of Orion.
When you say the planet is peaceful and green out, is that a particular planetary body within the Orion constellation? Can you be
Yeah,
a
that was the one that I was had
okay.
that journey on.
Mhm.
And now the rest of the planets, there's peace, there's technological advancements. There isn't really any primitive races on in the belt. I haven't explored like the whole of Orion constellation. And however, there are pe treaties and pacts between civilizations and trade agreements, and it's not a universal open, integrated system. Whereas like everybody in this belt knows about each other. They all know how many planets there are, who the civilizations are, and all that stuff. They all know about each other. How many tens and tens of planets they have. They all know about each other. However, not all of them communicate and interact with each other. There's isolated there's isolated colonies of
Mhm.
groups of planets.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Mhm. Mhm.
so they evolved, they became peaceful, they created harmony in the solar system, but the old wounds has made it that some planets don't actually interact with other planets.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
Even though
yeah.
it's almost like if you went onto Earth right now and say you went to like to Spain, for example, and you did a DNA test of a Spanish person, and you would get like African, Greek, European, you know what I mean, everything in that person. The whole entire Orion is pretty much a mutt. They're all ancestors to each other.
Interesting. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And so like it's really like you not talking. It's like if England and the US had never spoke again. You know what I mean? Even though like they have people from here have family members from England. You
Okay,
just
yeah, that's a good analogy. So,
yeah.
and as far as you know, nobody's fighting over Stargates and Orion right
No,
now.
no, and we're gonna have a whole part of that in our conference tomorrow about Orion now because Lorianette, she's like the most informed Orion ambassador ever, and she has a lot of information about how the wars began, what races did what, and what Orion looks like now. And her one of her main missions is to talk about Orion now because a lot of people are so focused on the turmoil, they don't realize the beauty because Orion, the nebula of Orion, is the most biggest, this is mainstream, biggest nebula in our galaxy. It's literally where many suns came from. Many of our suns throughout the galaxy were born in Orion. Orion is one of the greatest technologies. And we have this trauma about it, but it is literally the birthing nebula. It's almost like an archetypal mother wound that we had from
Mm,
from
mm.
from being upset at our mother that birthed us and disconnecting. Why do you hear about Lyran star seeds? Why do you hear about Palladian, Arcturian star seeds, Andromedan star seeds? Why does no one ever talk about Orion star seeds, right? And so there's a deeper underlying thing there where we have this innate fear of a part of ourselves that are connected to Orion.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Lots to think of with that, or just lots to consider, and lots of good food for the spiritual journey here. Um, I'm just pausing to see if anything else is drifting through because I know the audience will have lots of questions. Like I wanted to ask you just how does this is pivoting a little in the conversation, but somehow it's relevant. I know it's relevant because it's your journey, but the sound healing piece, frequency, vibration, sound, we are beings of such. The acoustics of the universe are always available to us, and we are a manifestation of that, as far as I understand it personally or psychically. But how did your journey with, that sound healing piece kind of filter into your world? I know you mentioned being a spoken word artist and rap and these things, but tell us more on this.
So how did the sound healing inform the rest of
Y-
my
Yeah,
awareness?
like how did your personal how were you led to sound healing or how
Yeah.
where did that come in?
Well, okay, so I was in the early stages. I was looking at bloodlines, conspiracies, looking at the Anunnaki, sons of God, how the Anunnaki story connects to the Old Testament. And then I would also look at how that connected to Indian scriptures of these gods, Shiva, the Mahabharata, Krishna, these blue beings. Who are they, right?
Mhm.
And when I went back to the Indian text, I started seeing like information, including in the Sumerian text, that had to do something with quantum physics. It looked like it had to do with something vibratory. And they were talking the way they were talking about space travel, music, harmonics, frequency, and I looked at, oh, is that what meditation is? Is meditation an acoustic way to shift the frequency? Is this quantum physics that we're able to do ourselves? Is that what Ayurveda food is? Is that what yoga is? Is that what, and start saying, okay, so all of this stuff is to shift with the frequency. So this is the moment where I really started getting the spirituality, realizing that quantum physics or the quantum world is the science of spirituality, and we're just starting to figure it out. And that since I was getting to the spiritual realm, there was all these sound healing events going on with that. And I would go to wellness events, and there was like some sound practitioner, and I realized that also these Tibetan bowls, these didgeridoos, these ancient instruments were all created just like meditation to help us shift our own frequency to reach another level of consciousness, to transcend the traumas, pain, all this stuff. So that was the beginning. And I would say because of ancient civilizations and then seeing how ancient civilizations connected to quantum physics, right? That brought me into, oh, wait, oh, that's piquing my mathematical logical mind now. Oh, can we prove all this stuff through science?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then the first thing was sound healing because that is a serious frequency coming to us, right? So it began with that and it continued from there.
Mm-hmm. And did that help you to personally heal and personally resolve some of your own, trauma wounds?
Yeah, I would say sound healing has been really instrumental for me. I wouldn't say that it's like, yeah, it can help relax and calm down the nervous system and help with depression and things that I've had. It could probably do some deeper things as well, where you can have those moments where you just completely transcend time, space, and learn the lessons from it. For me personally, it's helped with general relaxation and just
Yeah.
tranquility and anxiety. And
Mm-hmm.
then, but I've facilitated hundreds of events and I've had all types of people have experiences from it as well that are way beyond even what I've received.
Mm-hmm. And is there an interaction, to your knowledge or understanding, of sacred geometry with sound? What is the correlation there?
Yes. So if you were to put sand inside a Tibetan bowl or actually because of the way the bowl is structured, it won't completely do this. But if you've probably seen like a sand plate experiment where you can emanate specific frequencies that maybe even the Tibetan bowls do, and you put sand on it, and then it breaks into geometry. So the the different frequencies you put it at, it coalesces into different types of geometry, more complex, right? So that is pretty much what is happening, and we're not able to see that sand is able to give us the reflection of how the sound is emanating from that device. So because we have the sound in that sand in that moment, we are able to see it. But what happens when we don't have the sand is that sound is still doing that geometrical shape. It's literally creating that geometry around us. The best place to do and use sound is around something that has liquid in it because then it can actually create those type of crystal H2O forms and different types of structures in our body at that crystalline um, geometry. So we are over 75% water, and our body is just in general hydrated from that. So when we hear that frequency, we have that frequency, it has effect on actually changing the geometry within us.
Yeah.
Now, everything has frequency because this is all frequency. Nothing is truly solid. So we have five senses within the physical realm. Each one of them respond to frequency in a different way. The sound is the hearing. We're literally hearing a frequency. The smell has a frequency. The essential oil has a frequency, right? So the way correlation of the sound and the visual is the sacred geometry is the visual representation of the sound frequency.
Yeah, totally. Well said. You said it better than I could. I'm glad I asked you. That was great. Last night I'm teaching in a awakening course for 10 weeks. And last night I was guiding people through a meditation and ended with this, noticing sound in one's environment. Now, it sounds simple. And also it sounds like, you're in meditation. Why do you want to hear sound? But the more you go into the subtle, just very like even like white noise, if you allow your awareness to attune with it, like I went really far off. So like my consciousness just got so vast, and I was teaching people how to, come back in. But it's such a gateway. Even what we consider not like a pretty singing bowl, but just like ordinary sound can be a gateway if you're attuned in a certain direction through meditation and so on. So
Yeah.
endless discussion there. Neil,
All
it's
right.
we can speak for hours. There's so much here, so much here.
Well,
Um,
you've done a great job with this interview because you took us to all these different like you touched on everything. And it's crazy because we went through so many of the best topics and we went very deep on every one of them. I don't know how that happened in 1 hour.
Right? Like quantum, like because we've just been speaking
Yeah,
for like an hour. That's
yeah,
it. That's it. Well, it was intuitive, before I do an interview, I'm just like just throw the notes out, just like what needs to happen here, where are we
yeah.
going? When you see me close my eyes, it's like me kind of attuning with that. So, is there anything else on any of the topics covered tonight that you'd like to say anything else on?
I pretty much feel like I've said a lot.
You have said a lot. We have said a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just when one system crumbles, another one rises. We're in the crumbling of the old paradigm right now, and a lot of us have identified for lifetimes, if not just this life, on a paradigm that is outdated and leaving. So it's almost like we don't see ourselves with anything new, and when something new is about to happen, where a lot of people are afraid because
Yeah.
what they know is real is no longer as real as we thought it was, right? But ultimately, we're going to be okay because we only really need a few things to survive on planet Earth. We don't need these systems. We need shelter, food, water, and connection.
Mm.
And
We need
ultimately,
love. We need the heart. Yeah.
and an old paradigm that is crumbling, I feel will lead way for us to have more of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Neil. And like I said, we'll link Portal to Ascension. And if you could send me
Yeah.
the links to the specific conferences and things that you webinars and stuff that you have, we'll link that below for people. Anything you've got a conference coming up right now. What is that? Um,
Yeah, so the conference coming up now, again, I don't know when this is going to be launched, so it might have happened, but you can
right.
get the replay if it's launched already. It's called the Orion Constellation Conference. It's a 2-day event, and portaltoascension.org, replay of upcoming events. And then we have a lot of other ones. One thing I really would love to start sharing with people is the Shadow Workers course, 4-month course. It's the first course I've done sound healing courses, but I haven't done like, oh my God, this thing came in 10 days of silence in the jungle, right?
Oh,
This
okay.
all
Yeah.
me a few months ago, and it's going to be the deepest dive with the shadow work ever. I have like 4 guest speakers that are coming into. We're going to be looking into atrocities in the world, the things that really trigger us. We're going to be really putting it out there, the things that we can't reconcile with when it comes to the darkness and the bad things in the world, and just get to the core of, our own work to transcend and to do something that I think the world is set up not to do, which is to feel what it really feels like to be human, to really go into even the pain of what it means to be human and what it means to be the trauma of the world and all the things that have happened, right? And to integrate ourselves in full empathy without taking on the burden of it, right? So that's going to be in August, and the event page will be launched probably in a couple of days.
Wow. You're a powerhouse, Neil. Neil Guar. Yes, very much. And just a plug about my work, you can learn more about me, my website below, of course. And if you want to do deep, transformative one-on-one work, I have links below to Akashic record readings, quantum healing, galactic attunements, inner child integration, starseed coaching, and more. I'll be speaking this fall at the Super Soldier Activation Conference in Orlando. So sign up for the newsletter so you can be, if you want to meet me in person, you can do that. And give us a like, subscribe if you haven't, and let us know what you think about all this in the comments below. And Neil Gar, what a massive pleasure to race
Thank you.
through quantum leaping here through galactic history with you.
Thank
Such a
you.
pleasure.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Just to mention this briefly, I have a mother and father from a previous lifetime, Indigenous mother and father, and I just call them simply mother and father. They've been with me every day for about 2.5 years. They were my parents from a previous lifetime with the Crow people, and they've helped me heal so much. They've done soul retrieval work for me. They helped me journey to get parts back. And that's actually ongoing. Like even today, I was working with them this morning. And their love is so beautifully unconditional.